Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we have a Detroit Pistons off-season breakdown. If you enjoy this video, hit the like button, hit that sub button, drop a comment down below if you want more Pistons content. Let's get into it. So, as you can probably know, I mean, you can probably tell from the Packer thing, a White Sox hat, I'm not a Detroit Piston fan, all right? Keep that in mind as I break this down. But I've got their salary cap, I've got their roster pulled up right next to me. And, for some reason I don't. Oh, here we go. So I'm just going to kind of break them down, and we'll start off with Jeremy Grant. I really like Jeremy. I mean, he is literally on a very, very good contract right now. He averages more points than he makes. So 22 points per game from him. He's a good three-point shooter. He's a great scorer. I really like Jeremy Grant, and I think that considering he chose Detroit to go to, I don't think that Detroit would ever... You know, to just be completely honest with you, I don't think that Detroit trades him on this contract. What I think might end up happening is once his contract's over, he'll be about 29 years old. And I think that's when either they extend him and then you'll be able, like, you know, I think they'll just extend him and then go from there to see if, you know, they want to continue moving on. Who knows? I just don't think at $20 million for this next year and then 20.9 for the year after, I just don't see him getting traded. So move to Corey Joseph, 29-year-old. He's making about 12.6. Now, this contract is not guaranteed. So I think it would be safe to say that Corey Joseph will not be a Detroit Piston next season. That's just my opinion. I think he'll be bundled up in a trade, and we'll probably talk about that here later on as we go through it. But Corey Joseph, you know, doesn't really do too much for me. So, you know, I think it's safe to say he's gone. Mason Plumlee, coming off probably the best year of his career, 31 years old. So he's there in age. He's going to make 8.1 next year and 8.5 the year after that. My concern with Mason Plumlee is him just taking up the minutes for young players. And I've been seeing his name come up in a lot more trade hypotheticals. So I think Mason Plumlee will be in a trade. I wouldn't be surprised if Corey Joseph and Mason Plumlee were bundled up in the same trade. But I think Mason's going to be done. He's on a friendly contract for what he put up last year. I mean, $8 million for the statistics he's putting up. I mean, I think they might stick with him until at some point in the season next year. However, his value is probably relatively high right now because he can definitely help a contending team be their backup center. So we'll move on to Dennis Smith Jr., 23 years old, $5.6 million. If they decide to bring him back, it'll definitely be for less money, like 100% less money than that. Now, it really just depends on what they see in DSJ. Personally, I really like him. I think he did very well on Dallas, didn't do too much in New York, and made the most of what he was given here in Detroit. So, you know, I like DSJ. I think it might just be a little bit biased because I really, really, really love the draft class that he was in. Like, that's probably my favorite draft class of all time, or at least since I've been watching basketball and college basketball. His draft class was so enticing to me. NC State guy, I really mess with my North Carolina boys as well. So we'll see what they do at DSJ, but I mean, just judging off of what's happened in his career, my guess is that he doesn't come back. However, they are a little short at that point guard position, which once again we'll talk about later on in the video. Now, Killian Hayes, this is tricky, man, because they picked Killian Hayes last year at 7. He's 19 years old, so he's on that rookie contract. So money's not the issue with Killian. It's his really inability to score the basketball. Injuries last year really devastated him, and I would say he's going to have a good season. Honestly, I think he's going to have a good career. My issue is with Cade Cunningham. I don't know what's going to happen if they draft Cade Cunningham, because the thing about Cade is he could play small forward as well. So, you know, he doesn't have to play point guard. He could probably play shooting guard as well, but it's the issue, man. Is Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, and Mason Plumlee, is that, you know, the most ideal roster? I'm not quite sure. This question has been cycling through my brain for weeks on end because I make Houston Rockets content, and, you know, who the Pistons pick is a huge deal to us. So Killian Hayes, I really like him. I really like his potential. I just don't know what Detroit is going to do. But as far as I'm concerned, right now he's their starting point guard. And, you know, if he's their starting point guard, they've got someone that they can rely on. I think Killian did a very good job once he returned last season at the end. And, you know, I like Killian, and it seems like Pistons fans are pretty high on Killian. It's just tricky because you picked him at 7, and you've got the first pick in the draft this year. So we'll move on. We'll talk about Rodney McGruder. Last year of his contract, $5.3 million, probably another trade candidate. You know, I don't think that they see too much in him moving forward long-term. However, solid shooter, so they might keep him around as well. I think it's really 50-50 coin flip on that. He's $5.3 million in his last year. That's the thing, is he's in his last year, which is why I'm not quite sure if they're going to hold on to him or if they're going to try and bundle him in a trade, because he's only 29 years old, so he's the same age as Corey Joseph. I mean, these guys, the Pistons have veterans that can help contending teams, and we'll actually talk about one of my favorites, Wayne Ellington, in just a second. Josh Jackson, last year of his contract. I love Josh Jackson, and I don't want them to unload Josh if they even had to. I think he's a solid player. I think he's a really solid basketball player, and I like what he has. 24 years old, $5 million contract. There's a lot of potential there. I think this next season, you throw him in again, you see what he's made of. If he doesn't take that next jump, then you don't sign him again. But if he does, definitely, you know, try and figure out a way you can get him back on the team. Sekou Doumbouya, I made a whole video on if they should trade him. He's got 3 years left of his contract. 2 years left of his contract, sorry. I like Siakam. I think he is a huge project, and Pistons fans, you know, the Pistons organization, when they drafted him, they definitely knew he was going to be a project. That's what happens when you get these really long foreign basketball players. Like, they typically cannot shoot that well. He's a freak athlete. I really like his potential. He's 20 years old, so they'll probably keep him until at least the trade deadline, but I would say he will be a Detroit Piston for the whole year. I would say that's a relatively safe bet. I don't see them moving on from him quite yet. He was interesting enough. He is the one player that Troy Weaver did not pick. So that's the reason that I kind of made that trade video, because I mean, new GMs typically want all their players to be, you know, kind of like their boys. So who knows with Siakam, but I think he's safe to say for the rest of the season, or at least until the trade deadline. Isaiah Stewart, Saddiq Bey. I'll bunch these two guys together because Isaiah Stewart, I just made a video about Isaiah Stewart. I mean, that guy is a baller, absolute baller. And then Saddiq Bey showed tremendous improvement towards the end of the season. They've got these guys locked up for the next 3 years. Incredible picks. I think that these were just some really, really good picks. And I hate when people say all Saddiq Bey does is shoot, because it's like, even if all Saddiq Bey did was shoot, if it's elite, who cares? Like, what are you even talking about, dude? And, you know, with Isaiah Stewart, I mean, the guy is just an absolute animal. His per 36 statistics are beautiful. I would love for him to start. So young, though. That's why, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep Mason Plumlee for the next year and then trade him in the last year of his contract, and then hopefully Isaiah Stewart this next year he can continue to develop, continue to get better, and then next season is when he would start. Wayne Ellington, I said I would talk about Wayne Ellington. Wayne Ellington, I mean, he's a free agent. He won't be back on this team. I don't see them bringing him back. He's a great shooter. Very efficient three-point shooter. I made several videos on him at the trade deadline for teams like the Lakers to pick up. Somehow, I mean, the Pistons probably could have gotten a second-round pick for him. I don't really know, actually, how he remained on the team. It's actually quite surprising to me that Wayne Ellington stayed in Detroit and they did not end up trading him last year. I thought that was a tremendous shock, and it's weird because if they didn't trade him, do they want to bring him back? I mean, he's going to be 34. Like I say, he's a great three-point shooter. However, you're trying to get younger, man, right? You're trying to get younger. You're not trying to get older. So Wayne Ellington, you could make a logical explanation for both sides. Like, yeah, they'll keep him. They didn't trade him. And then also, like, why are they going to keep Wayne Ellington? So I think he's gone. Jahlil Okafor, my Chicago guy, I love Jahlil. I can't slander anything ever. I mean, my Duke guy, I think he's a beast, but I think the craziest part, this will be the last year of his contract, $2.1 million. I think the craziest part about Jahlil Okafor is that he is only 25 years old. For some reason, I thought he would be at least 26, at least 27, 28, something like that. But he's only 25. They'll bring him back. Diaw and Saban Lee, Frank Jackson, it remains up in the air. I think all three of those guys will be back. Now, Saban Lee and Frank Jackson, they're actually on two-way contracts. Frank actually got some run at the end of last season, and Saban Lee's pretty dope. So, honestly, I could see all three of those players returning just because they're all, you know, the oldest is Frank Jackson at 23 years old, another Duke guy. And, yeah, I think all three of those players will be back. And, yeah, that's about it for this Pistons video. Actually, I was not really expecting that to be the end, but Diaw, Lee, Jackson, I think they'll all return. The Pistons, as far as expectations go next year, I'll make a whole video on that, but I'd say right away, you definitely just want to see significant improvement. Year two of a new GM, you got your new prospects, you got this year's prospects, you got last year's prospects. I think you just want to see progress. You want to see development, and I think Troy Weaver's done a great job at assembling this team. So my best guess is Detroit 4 years, 5 years from now, they're going to be an elite basketball team. And yeah, that's it for today, man. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit that sub button. It's greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.